What's up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Merricks Garage. Today, we are going behind the scenes on the red square body Blazer that we built. In case you've been living under a rock and not seeing any of my videos or posts on Instagram, my team and I built an amazing K5 Blazer for a customer from Georgia. It was a year-long process that touched on every aspect of truck building, from axles to engine, to cage and bumper fabrication and all the electrical and stuff in between. So today we're gonna get in the weeds. We're gonna crawl under the truck. We're gonna crawl inside the truck. I'm gonna show you all the cool features, talk about how we built it, talk about how we chose the products for this particular build. And I hope answer any question that you guys might have about this truck. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, take a look at this video up here, some interviews that describe the process. But if you're interested in learning technical details on these builds, you're in the right place. This video is full of it. Make sure to stay tuned until the end, and I'm gonna have some links to some additional videos of this truck in use and the first time that Aaron saw it, which is pretty special. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Let's get into the content. This is the most recent build we are wrapping up, and probably one of the coolest Blazers I have ever built and most likely seen. Today, I'm gonna walk through front to back exactly what we did, answer all the questions that have come up, and showcase some of the really cool aspects of this build. This is a 1991 K5 Blazer. The customer's owned it for about 20 years. He took immaculate care of it. There was very, very little rust, corrosion, dirt, or anything on this thing when it arrived. We did strip it completely down. So the entire underside got blasted. All of the old paint came off. The interior got blasted. Any rust spots, any corrosion was ground down. And if we needed to weld any cracks, that was all done. The frame was sent to a frame shop down the street and was put on their alignment rack and brought back to factory specs. And so, yeah, essentially, any degradation of this truck over the last 20 years, we dealt with before we started reassembly of it. Pop the hood for you guys to see this engine. It's got an LQ9, like I said, under the hood. It's got a 4L80 from Gearstar behind that, and then it's got a 241C transfer case that we put a slip yoke eliminator on. Transfer case is the stock transfer case. So we took the transfer case, we pulled it apart, we changed the intermediate shaft, and we put a flange on the back. So instead of having a slip yoke, it's now got a flange. Great transfer case, works really well with this engine and transmission combo. The LS is a super popular engine upgrade for these trucks for several reasons. It's a GM product, pretty much bolts in exactly where the old engine goes, and gives you great power, great pedal, great drivability, and tons of tuning options. This particular engine is the truck motor. That's why you see it's got the Vortec on it. That gave us an upgraded intake. The intake that this comes with is a great low power, high torque intake. It makes power right off of the bottom end. It's a great intake to match with the truck motor. You add the long tube headers, a good tune, good throttle body, and a healthy cam, and you've got a fire breather of an engine. Details matter on a build like this. I want to see labeling, I want to see clear, concise, well thought out layout, and I want to see that all of the pass-throughs either have heavy duty wrapping around the cable itself, a grommet in the firewall, or a combination of both. That's why you're going to see cushion clamps. It's why you're going to see flex hose. It's why you're going to see radiator hose wrapped around wires. It all begins with the installation. If you skimp and pass through the firewall, if you don't protect the cabling, you're setting yourself up for problems. We spend a lot of time making sure that any abrasion point, any pinch point, any heat source is going to be away from the wiring harness. And if we can't avoid that, we're going to protect it. We're going to cover it with grommets. We're going to isolate it with cushion clamps, just to make sure that there is no chance of a short or a failure beyond something that we can control. The most intimidating thing that I hear from people is wiring, and it doesn't need to be intimidating. What leads to the fear factor for most people is just lack of knowledge of what anything is. It's often a complicated mess, things aren't labeled properly, you can't figure out where everything runs. I find it very important that you try and keep like-minded cables together. run things as one unit. So all of the wires that weren't used from the factory harness, we broke out over here. We haven't labeled them, but they're pretty easy to figure out from a wiring schematic. If you did want to add something back in, you don't have to fish around in the harness. They're already broken out right here. By adding these line separator clamps, we're able to make sure that none of these lines are rubbing on a hard surface. That may not be a big deal now, but 100,000 miles down the road, it sure is going to make a big difference. That's why you're going to see clamps, separators, all of the looming, all of the protection, the Velcro holding lines together, the clamps isolating things, bus bars for all of the wiring. The more attention you can pay to this now, the more dividends it will pay down the road when you do run into a problem. I'm a visual guy, so I need a visual indicator showing me when I don't need to faff with the bolt anymore. When I'm doing final assembly, the way we know that that bolt has been finalized and doesn't need to be touched again is when you see a piece of yellow paint. That means that it has been torqued, if appropriate, it's been Loctited, and it's fastened and finished. If I see that yellow paint, it's a real quick way for me to not only visualize if a bolt has come loose, but know that we don't need to touch it anymore because it is finished. Visual representation makes my world a lot easier. It's why you see the yellow paint, it's why you see all the labeling. I need to know what I'm looking at. While the engine stays in the factory location, the new transmission is about 2 inches longer than the 700R4 it replaced. That made it necessary to relocate this transmission crossmember back. We used a fabricated crossmember, added some gussets, strengthened it, drilled some holes, and shifted it back. We then took the factory skid plate and integrated it to the crossmember, giving us a factory look, an easily removable crossmember that is burly, built to last, and in the right place. A traditional setup is going to have what's called a slip yoke up here on the transfer case. That is going to be a splined male shaft, female shaft that's going to slide into the housing of the transfer case. All fine and great until you break a drive line and all of your transmission fluid comes out of the back. We did a slip yoke eliminator kit on this 241, which provided this flange, allowed him to go with a bolt-on drive shaft from Tom Woods all the way down to his new 14 bolt in the back. He's got 1350 joints in it, double cardan up front, and a bomber heavy-duty drive shaft from Tom Woods. I've yet to break one of their drive shafts. The customer wanted onboard air, so we provided a Vi-Air compressor and Vi-Air 2.5 gallon tank. Generally, these are pretty difficult to fit on a Blazer because they do not have a ton of room underneath where it's not liable to get knocked off by a rock. We fabbed up this bracket that relocates both the compressor and the tank up high and tight. All the wiring gets routed through it, and you've got your air system and the air tank all located neat, tidy, up and out of the way. We ran a hard line to the back, so he has a port that he can plug into for his airline, and then we ran the power to this through the Switch Pros, so he hits a button on the Switch Pros dash, energizes this compressor, and fills his tank. So to make this engine function, we used a Holley standalone engine management system. It's the Holley Terminator X Max that's in the cab. It's got the Holley full wiring harness in here. We added a big block radiator. We went with electric fans that are controlled from the electronic Holley system. This is a Tejas Metalworks or Tejas Steelworks fan shroud and two, I believe they're 14-inch Spall fans. I've run this combo in a number of trucks. It works really well. It's got a factory fit and finish. This is actually a Summit replica of a GM big block radiator. So it looks period correct. You use factory retaining plates, you use the factory bumpers. Just kind of, it looks correct in here. This is the LQ9 iron block. We also ran Hydro Boost, so we converted from a vacuum brake system to a hydraulic powered brake system. So the brakes are powered off the power steering pump. And this is the power steering reservoir that fills the box, sends power down to the ram, which gives you that powerful steering needed to turn these monster 40-inch tires. If this is your first time to my channel, you may be wondering, is this a YouTube channel or is it just one giant long commercial? The answer is yes to both of those. It started as a YouTube channel, but now I get to build killer trucks for you guys out there. And if you want to learn more, go to merricksgarage.com, fill out a contact us form, give us some details on what you're looking for, and we will reach out to you and start the process of building your amazing truck. The steering system that we went with underneath is an off-road designs system. We went with a two-wheel drive power steering box from PSC. Now, what that means is we have a two-wheel drive orientation on this, what's called the sector shaft. So it moves this link right here, your pitman arm, from being a 90-degree to a perpendicular, parallel with the frame. That allows us to run a tie rod above the leaf springs and on the passenger side, not the driver's side. We left this tie rod alone. A lot of people ask why we don't go to high steer, which would be moving this tie rod up above. In my opinion, it's not really worth the decrease in steering efficiency. I can get into that in another video, but we stuck with the original system, except we added a PSC hydraulic ram. So this is not a steering stabilizer, as many people mistake it for. This is actually a hydraulically powered ram that moves in concurrence with the steering arm. So when the steering arm moves and pushes the drag link, which pushes and pulls the tie rod, this ram moves correspondingly, pushing on the tie rod at the same time. It gives you a much stronger and a much more predictable steering feel. If you want more information about hydraulic steering and crossover versus high steer, I've got many videos on that. It's integral to a build like this when you're putting big axles and big tires and big brakes and big power to have good steering. Any build, we're going to address steering. Any build that we address steering, we're going to address the frame. These builds are notorious for tearing the steering box off of the frame. There's 4 holes that mount to it. There's a lot of leverage pulling that box away from the frame. It inevitably results in having some cracks. Off-Road Design makes a killer reinforcement kit that we weld onto the frame. It repairs the cracks, strengthens it, and it makes sure you're not going to have any issues moving forward. So in addition to doing some strengthening there, we also like to add some vertical ribs strategically around the uprights, the C-channel of the frame, just to bring a little bit more rigidity. It's pretty much standard now to do some frame strengthening. The axles for this build are a GM 14-bolt full floater, pretty much the go-to for any heavy-duty application. These can be found anywhere. There's a ton of parts availability. They're incredibly strong. The axles are non-load bearing, and you can find parts for them pretty much on the side of the road. The front axle is a Dana 60. It is the old school Dana 60, no ball joints. It's got what's called kingpins. Very simple design, very, very robust, incredibly hard to kill. Both those axles are available for the right spring perch. This has been the go-to upgrade since basically people started modifying these trucks. The owner of this truck wanted 40-inch tires because obviously it's the only solution for a truck this awesome. With the 40-inch tires, this is the question I get asked thousands of times. What size lift and tires? Well, we did cut his fender significantly. That's going to be necessary when you go to a tire of this size, pretty much no matter what lift you put on it. These springs, I would guess, are probably about a 7-inch lift. They're custom leaf springs from Off-Road Design. I've spoken about this in multiple videos, but there's no need to go crazy with your suspension. Bilstein 5125s. I've used these on a ton of builds. They're inexpensive, they work really well. They come in a bunch of different sizes. It's a really good way to get great suspension on your truck. Off-Road Design custom leaf springs. Spend some money on these. The Bilstein 5125s are a great economical option for your shock absorbers, paired with a custom spring from Off-Road Design that's going to give you the appropriate lift, the appropriate leaf pack, the right length, and the best ride. You got a suspension system that's dialed. This particular truck is running rather tall gearing. I think we're running 538s. The guy didn't want to really do any freeway. He didn't want to do interstate. That's not his jam. He wanted a truck that was, you know, going to have lots of off-the-line power, and he has that with this gear ratio. It has a 4L80 with overdrive and torque lockup, so he would be able to cruise if he wants to. It's also got the NP241. The only original piece of this truck in the drivetrain is the transfer case. And then what else did we do? Well, moving to the back. Let's start at the rear end here, because we built this bumper for the customer. He wanted to integrate a hitch into it, so we took a factory hitch. We cut off the frame horns, Frenched the receiver hitch into the frame rails, welded it all in, and then used that as basically our anchor to build the rest of the tube bumper off it. We wanted strong tubes here. This is going to be a point that you can use a high lift jack if you're rock crawling and you fall off an obstacle. This is what's going to hit first. Protect the sheet metal. It runs all the way down to try and protect this pristine sheet metal. And then we have another tube under here that's keying up and can go into the cage should he choose to bolt the cage to the frame one day. We added this diamond plate on top, some vertical plate down here with a couple dimple dies in it, two big massive hitch points, and this KC chase bar up top. Really, really happy on how this came out. I would like to produce this. I've got a lot of people asking if we can start selling bumpers. I would love to. I really like the lines of this bumper. I think it complements the truck really well. I just got to figure out how to do that efficiently and at a price point that's reasonable for everyone. The next part we fabbed was this roll cage. We have made the transition to selling these roll cages. You'll see that's what's covered on the trailer over there. We're selling the roll cage, the family bar, and the B-pillar as one unit. Ships on one pallet. Everything's listed on my website. You can go figure out how much it will cost to ship to your location. This customer wanted a cage, but he also wanted the front part. So in addition to building the rear cage, we also added this halo and A-pillar. This is not currently part of the package I offer. I'd like to see it become part of the package in the future. Still kicking around some ideas on how to make that happen. Going back to the rear here, you'll see that we cut a hole in his beautiful floor. With this hatch plate on, you can now access anything that you need to do on your fueling, from dialing in the fuel sender, dialing in the float for the gauge, checking and fixing all your return lines, and should you need to replace a pump, simply unscrew, pull out, put the new pump in, put it back in. The original design requires you to drop the whole tank out. Time consuming, kind of a pain in the neck, and with this hatch, it's a 5-minute job. These are the seat brackets I've sold for years now that allow you to put a late model GM third row bench seat. This particular bench seat is the split folding. You'll see you're going to get 3 shoulder belts, 2 headrests, and the option to fold these seats flat, to fold them forward, or to remove them. The bracket bolts securely into the factory floor bolt, so there's no drilling required. Earlier models, dependent on your floor situation, you may have to drill 1 or 2 holes, but that's a small price to pay for getting your kids a little bit extra safety in their seating positions. We used U-pole Raptor liner to do the entire truck. Everything was scoured down to pretty much bare metal. We cleaned it all up and sprayed multiple coats of this liner. And I've used this liner for years. I used it on Double Down. I used it on my military Blazer. And it holds up really well. It protects the truck really well. And it looks really good too. So those are the main additions we made to the rear of the truck. Let's move forward to the front of the truck, the passenger compartment up front, and I'll show you what we did up front. Just like the rear seats were sourced from a GM third row, I recommend European sports coupe seats for the front. These came out of a BMW 335. They are 2009 seats. Why I like the coupe is they give you this fold forward. So access to the rear is a little bit easier than having a rigid back seat. They're using my front seat brackets that mount to the bolt holes in the floor. He's got a Tuffy console, a locking console in here, and I designed some brackets that mount the Tuffy console to my seat brackets, and then the console just bolts straight onto the brackets themselves. No drilling into your floor, no risk of misalignment. You don't have to build any special risers to make it sit level. Hopefully have those on my website soon, shortly too. We use the DIY 4x dash. I love this dash. Most of these Blazers come with damaged or just not very good factory dashes anymore. The solutions are pretty limited when it comes to the OEM stuff. The DIY 4x dash makes things remarkably easy to integrate new electronics, to house computers, and to mount all your gauges. I know DIY 4x is out of business. I know they've stopped offering this dash. I would like to fill that hole in the market. It's on my list of things to do. But I still am a big proponent of this dash. What I particularly like about it is the flexibility. You'll see that what we did here is we cut and made a panel that mates to the face of this. So this showed up and it was just a flat surface. With these security torques, we're able to undo this panel, remove the entire assembly dash, which will include this Holly Pro dash and the Switch Pros, and have full access to the wiring harness behind it. No need to crawl under the dash and use a mirror and some Houdini effects to try and get to the fuse panel or a wire that's rubbing. Remove the dash, get straight in there. The dash that this guy chooses to go with is the Holly Pro dash. I'm gonna fire this up right now so you guys can see it come up. This is the Holly Pro dash, and incredibly customizable, tons of different options you can see for how you want the screen to present, and each one of these is going to be customizable for what you want to see. So we can make the water temperature move over here, we can put the fuel pressure over there. You can also add switches like I've done up here. We've got a switch for his under the hood light. We've got a switch right there that energizes his KC front bumper lights. And we've also got indicator lights for his fans, so we know when the fans kick on, fan 1 and fan 2, when his torque converter locks up, when his turn signals are going, when his high beams are on. I love this dash. It's not cheap. It does solve a lot of problems in the terms of packaging and data acquisition and just getting a good, quick view of what your engine's doing. I'm a big fan of this screen instead of some of the other ones because the data that you can see immediately is what I need to see. I want to see my AFR, my air-fuel ratio. I want to see my engine temperature, my oil pressure, my transmission temperature, fuel pressure, fuel level, and then the tach, it runs right here, and your speed, which is run off GPS, shows up right there. I also incorporated the indicators for the fans. So these fans, the electric fans up front, those are designed to come on when the engine reaches 195, and then the second fan kicks on at 205. You'll know that those fans come on because there will be a little illumination on this fan 1 and fan 2 indicator. You will know that your torque converter has locked up when the torque converter light illuminates. And then over here, we added a couple of solid state switches. So if he wants to turn the dash light or the light under his hood on, that is just, you touch this guy right here and the light comes on. The front bumper lights from KC are also programmable through and activate through this switch right here. Here we have the Switch Pros touchpad. Now, I have done countless videos on these. You guys will have heard me rave about the Switch Pros. In a nutshell, what the Switch Pros does, the historical way of building an electrical system was to have fuses, relays, switches, and wiring. And each particular device would have its own relay, its own fuse, its own wire, its own switch, and its own problems. What Switch Pros has done is they've taken all of the accessories and run the accessories to one central box that's under the dash here. Then you've got a remote trigger console or switch console that you can mount wherever, And each one of these will control something on the truck. So if we want to turn on the air compressor, our air compressor is now running. What makes this thing so cool is none of these switches are predestined to be one thing or another. They're what you program it to do. It's all controlled through a very user-friendly app. Once again, a great solution for all your electrical problems. No more fuse panel, no more relays, no more excess wiring. Everything is controlled through this solid state box that has, I'm gonna get into the weeds a little bit here, but instead of having mechanical fuses and mechanical relays, it's all semiconductor chips that sense the voltage running through it. And if the voltage is too high, let's say you've got a short, it will just cut the circuit. So very safe, very easy to troubleshoot, very robust, very cool. They take a lot of work to wire them up and to get them looking the way I think they should, but it's a system that will just grow with you. We left quite a lot of open spots on here, so he can add things as he wants to. One of the things I want to show you guys right now that I'm particularly proud of is the control of his seats. So historically, you put one of these late market seats into the truck, you're not going to be able to utilize the controls on them. These seats run what's called a CAN bus system, which is a 5-volt networking system that allows all of the various components in a modern car to talk to each other. It runs off of 5 volts. Very simple, very easy to operate, very efficient in a modern car, but not present in an old car like this. These still run traditional 12-volt systems. So to get your seats to work, you need a device that will trick the seat into seeing a 5-volt signal from the 12-volt system in the truck. The way around that was a little box I built, and I'll show you that in a second here, that mimics that 5-volt signal and keeps the seats awake, basically. The computer that controls the seats receives this signal, it thinks it's talking to a big central computer, and so it stays awake, allowing you full control of all your seats. It's not a one-time thing. It's not a set it and forget it. You're going to have control of your side bolsters. You're going to have control of the height of the seat. You're going to have control of the tilt, everything. That's dependent on what seats you choose. It's why I love the European seats. They give you a ton of comfort, a ton of options. And BMW seats are just comfortable. So that's controlled through the Switch Pros also. This is what turns on the little box that talks to the seats and allows you to get the adequate seating position that's most comfortable for you. This is the little square wave generator that I was referring to that we make here in-house. It combines a couple different circuits to give you a positive, a negative, and then a CAN bus signal. It's this signal that will keep the seat computer awake, allowing you full control over the movement. This is the DIY dash that we utilize the glove box to hold his ECU. This is the Terminator X Max from Holley. This is what controls and gives the signal to all the components of the engine. This is your new brains of the operation. Easy to access through here. You can look at all of your troubleshooting lights. I labeled them so what they are so the customer will know when he turns on the truck. If he sees a blinking green, he's got ECU power. If he's got a yellow instead of a green cam signal, he knows something's going on there. Very just quick and easy way of troubleshooting. So you have the Switch Pro's touchpad over there that gives you the controls. This right here is the Switch Pro's brain. That's where the semiconductors, the solid state magic happens. Each one of those wires coming out there, I took to a corresponding bus bar, labeled what it is. So if he wants to add additional accessories on down the road, all he needs to do is wire them into one of these bus bar connections. Up above this, we have the Terminator X Max computer. This is the computer that runs the engine and the transmission. I wanted to kind of keep a lot of his electronics organized in one spot, so any troubleshooting for this Terminator system will happen under the dash here. His relays are all under here. His fuses are under here. The relays and fuses are for the engine management system. The electronics like his lights and air compressor and seats all run off the Switch Pros. But they're all here. This is where he will troubleshoot. This is where he will add accessories. This is where all the problems will arise. So I wanted to give him easy access, clean, concise labeling, and just a pretty obvious solution to any problem that might come up. Very easy way to improve the appearance of any vehicle is going to be add new trim. This replica trim can be purchased from LMC Truck. It's reasonably priced. And by adding a new grille, new side bezels, and maybe a new emblem, you update the look of the truck tremendously. And a killer new front bumper from Off-Road Design, coupled with these KC daylighters, this setup looks prime. I told you guys that was going to be a killer video. I mean, what's not to love about 1-tons LS power and square bodies? At least, if you're watching my channel, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. But yeah, that was kind of a full circle moment for me. One of my first videos that I ever did about 10 years ago that kind of kicked off this whole crazy YouTube thing was on my personal truck. When I dropped an LS and put 1-tons on my truck, and I shot a quick video showing exactly how it all went together. I'm quite a bit younger and a little bit thinner, but I have a lot more experience and knowledge now. So I think that reflects in not only the quality of the video, but the truck that we delivered. Aaron, the customer, was thrilled with this thing. We just shipped it back and he received it a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to link some other videos. First of all, I'm going to link the video up above me to that LS swap video I did years ago. I'm going to put a subscribe button down there so you can click that and stay tuned for all the videos or get all the information on the videos when they're coming out. And then I'll drop a video over here of the first time that Aaron saw this truck. Pretty special moment to see him walk through the gate with his family and lay eyes on a build that he'd been dreaming about for about 20 years. So lots of good content. I thank you guys for being here with me and I appreciate you all. We'll see you soon. Merricks Garage.